I'm just laying there crying, freaking out. And at that moment, I'm like, oh my gosh, like I might never be the same again, because an injury like that, you just don't know how you're going to come back from. That incident set up something that I could have never imagined or seen coming. I grew up in Waynesville, Ohio for most of my life. I was super active. And we had, I think, about 10 acres. So we were just like outside all the time with my brothers and sister. Then as soon as I could, I was playing like organized sports all the way up through high school. I played basketball, ran track, soccer, and then I also played club soccer. Basically my whole life revolved around sports for the most part, or being outside just doing different things. Neither of my parents really knew a thing about soccer. Even though they didn't know anything about soccer, my dad went to coaching classes and helped coach all of my teams all the way up until high school basically. So I always had a really good support system. Leads off with Bethany Davidson. Once I got to high school, for sure I knew I wanted to play soccer in college. At first I was really apprehensive about it because I didn't think I was good enough, but once I saw other people I was playing with and they wanted to go to play soccer in college, I was like, oh, I can totally do this if they can. I went on a lot of college visits. I had a full ride offer to Cleveland State, which was a D1 school. I had offers from a bunch of D2 schools as well as D3. But through someone that I knew from playing soccer in high school with, she went to Lee and played college soccer there. Otherwise, I never would have heard of Lee University. So they had me out for a visit, and as soon as I was on campus, I knew that's where I was going to school. It didn't matter how much of a soccer scholarship I was offered, that was where I was going to go because I loved everything about Lee. We were playing our first scrimmage of the year. I got it kicked back to me and I was passing the ball to another teammate, and the girl from the other team just ran right into me. And because we were playing indoor, my foot was planted, and so my foot stayed planted, but when the girl knocked me, I spun all the way around. I ended up tearing my ACL and everything else possible in my knee, both my meniscuses, and my bones hit together so hard that they had massive bone bruising. That year, just because of how bad everything was, I needed at least a year of sitting out. So I came back after the summer break. I did physical therapy all summer. And then as I came back sophomore year, every day I would go to rehab for hours, and then I would go to practice. So much of my time was either spent doing physical therapy and rehab or just watching soccer practice. But I decided starting that sophomore year that even though I might not be able to play, I was still gonna accept this new role on the team of doing everything possible that I could to help us win. Junior year, I came back and I was cleared to play. I had spent all summer trying to get back in shape. The whole time though, junior year, that fall, I was constantly in pain with my knee. The athletic trainer, I kept asking, do you think I need an MRI? Do you think it's okay? And his response each time was, you're being a baby, suck it up, your knee's fine. Even my coach had told my dad that I was not running right. He could tell I was limping. But they don't care if you're playing well. I wasn't starting, but at the same time, throughout my junior year, I would say that I was playing better and better, and probably the best soccer that I had ever played. And that year we won our first national championship that the school has ever had in any sports. So I finally demanded that they get me an MRI because I knew something was wrong, and it was just getting worse and worse. I had a half-inch hole in my bone. The doctor's first thing that he said was, I don't know how you were playing soccer, let alone even walking right now, because of like how bad my knee was. At the end of that semester, when they did a next MRI to see if anything that the doctor had done, if it had helped, it showed that there was like no progress whatsoever. So he said that he had to send me to one of 4 doctors in the country, and one of them just so happened to be in Cincinnati, which was like an hour from my house. And at that point, I still kept thinking that I was going to go back and be able to play, like that this was just like a hurdle I had to get over and I would be fine. He sat me down and he goes, Molly, you will never play soccer again. You'll never play any sports again. You'll never even be able to run again. My goal for you is to be able to get you to walk without pain. And at that point, it was like, I felt like my whole life, it was like everything just went black, because he was telling me like the one thing that I absolutely loved, I was never going to be able to do again. And I was going to school to like coach. I wanted to coach and then do like fitness and wellness, like be a fitness and wellness coach as well. And you can't do that if you can't move. So I didn't even know what I was going to go to school for anymore. It was like basically I felt like every plan I had in my life was basically just done. I actually, at the end of that year, they named an award after me, and the coach even said, like, if it wasn't for me and all the extra stuff that I did to try to, even though I couldn't play, that we would not have succeeded the way that we did and might not have even, like, gone and won another national championship. I've had now 15 total knee surgeries. So it was kind of like one thing would happen that would lead to the next thing, that would lead to the next thing, and my body would not heal. All the while, I graduated from college and I got my master's degree. I got married. So it's like my life was still moving, but it was constantly like, oh, gotta go to the doctor, gonna have another surgery. Now I gotta go through PT and recover. So it was like this process that was never ending. The longest time I went without having a surgery was 2 years. So it was around the time that I got married, that year before and then the year after. And those 2 years were great. I actually like felt like I was like living my life. During that time, though, I knew something was wrong with my knee. Like, I could feel it, but I was putting it off as long as possible because I knew as soon as I went to the doctor, I was going to need another surgery. At that point, the next surgery that I would have to have is a total knee replacement. I had the surgery in July of 2016, so I was 28 at the time, and so I was one of the youngest patients he had ever done a total knee replacement on. It was the worst pain I've ever felt in my entire life. They put me on so much medication, they said it could knock out a horse because I just like couldn't handle how bad everything was. So again, they just like weren't really sure what was going on because I shouldn't have been in that much pain that long after surgery. I mean, at that point, it was like almost 6 months post-op. Finally, they figured out that I had something called complex regional pain syndrome, which on the pain scale, it's ranked higher than natural childbirth, than having cancer. So while I was in rehab for my total knee replacement, because I still kept going for, a year plus, one of my physical therapists was like, you know what, like, I don't know why I didn't think of this sooner, but I think you have a rare genetic disorder called Ehlers-Danlos Syndrome. I finally got into a geneticist, and indeed I did have EDS, and basically it's a connective tissue disorder. My subtype was hypermobility, so it just means that like my joints pop in and out of place and a whole bunch of other things. But it explained why from a young age on, I was always in pain. Like, I just thought it was normal to have like my knee pop in and out of place, or like a finger, or whatever joint it may be. And they had always just told me it was growing pains, but all of a sudden that made like so much sense why I'd had all this pain my whole life. It also means like you don't heal properly. I mean, the list just goes on and on. So that again explains why none of my knee surgeries were really taking, was because I wasn't healing. You know, like when you have all of these things and you're constantly asking for help, you just feel like you're just like such a failure. You know, you're not sure what you can even give. Like, what do I even have to give back to people? Like, all these people are doing everything for me. So through all of that, it's made me continue to be like an encouraging person. You know, it doesn't take that much to send people like a text, see how they're doing, and then still uplift them in their day. But it's taken me a long time to get back to that point of being able to do it, because, you know, with the grief, and there's just so much anger and pain. And then, you know, there's pain with friendships, because a lot of my friendships have changed because I can't do what I used to be able to do. But through it all, it's been like unbelievable to see, especially my husband, Ben, like constantly like asking me every day, like, what can I do? What can I do to put a smile on your face? Like, what do you need? Or my parents, who basically move their schedule around at a drop of a notice. So through all this, it's been really, really hard to keep hope, because I've kept hope after, 22 surgeries at this point, that with each thing, it's like somehow it's going to make me feel better. But the thing that I've found is that, I have to keep that hope, even though it's like you can live for a short time without food or without water, but you cannot live without hope. And so it's still having that hope, but it's a hope of, I might not ever be cured, I might not ever get any better physically than how I am right now, but how could God use me in other people's lives? It's totally worth everything that I have been through, like if I can be an encouragement to other people. It's been like really cool to see how I've met other people that have similar situations to me, and just like reaching out to them, and how like grateful they are just to have someone to talk to. But it's like, what are the little things that I can do each day that will help other people around me? And so, I might not feel like I'm doing anything all that great, but through whatever I'm saying, or just like encouraging people, maybe it'll help them, have a better day. I'm Molly Armstrong, and I'm an encourager.